Ward's Island on our left, Astoria, Queens on our right. Sorry, port starboard. The Tri-Borough Bridge is a new deal, 1936, opened by FDR, connecting the three boroughs. This Ward's Island and Randall's Island technically belongs to New York County. It's part of Manhattan. Where we're going to go when we see Rikers and the two brothers, they're part of Bronx County. Rikers Island is in Bronx County for purposes of administration, and it's the congressional district of Charles Randall, who represents then part of the Bronx, meaning that there's 5 Congress people in the Bronx, even though not too many not everyone in Rikers has the right to vote. Huge, on the right, a huge Greek-owned condo, all the space that was industrial here, that was sort of the first one, and they sold it out a few years ago, and it's almost Manhattan prices. So the gentrification that has gone through various parts of the city has gone through Astoria and Long Island City, and people realized that this land that was along the river was really, really desirable. This is Astoria Park. The big pool is behind there. It's a lovely place to go at any time and drive with your kids or your sweetie. We're now going under the Hellgate Bridge. Hellgate Bridge connects Queens to the Bronx. It's from 1917, and it was by Gustav Lindenthal, the Austrian. Today it would be Czech Republic. And it is a truss, a steel truss bridge. And the arch is what holds it all together. It's considered aesthetically one of the most beautiful bridges. It's railroad only. If you take the Amtrak to Boston, that's the bridge you go over. And then you go to Hunters Point, under the river, into Grand Central. So they use cables, not to support the bridge, but to support all the steel until the keystone, which, as you know, is the key to every arch, no pun intended, until the keystone was put together, and then the two countervailing forces of the arch are what holds the train in place. Just past that, on the port side, where you see those tanks, and it's a good thing you're here in air conditioned, because that's a sewage treatment plant. One of the big ones located, and you can smell it sometimes all the way to Parkchester, depending on how the wind is blowing. Like almost all of our treatment plants, it's primary treatment. And it doesn't bear too much investigation to find out what this is all about. But what is suffice to say, primary treatment means what goes from your storm sewer or your toilet or your washing machine goes directly into tanks over there, where it basically settles. And a skimmer comes and scoops off the floating matter, and the heavy matter sinks to the bottom, where it's hauled out and sold or taken away to somewhere in the south. And the stuff in the middle, after so much primary treatment, is, guess what, pumped into the river. That's all maintained by the Department of Environmental Protection. Notice the difference in the shoreline. We're going to come up here to the Bronx Kill. Bronx Kill, remember, kill was the Dutch word for creek, Catskill, Peak, Spill, Kill. And the Bronx Kill is what makes Randall's and Ward's an island. It's a little channel that connects Mott Haven. We're about to get to it now. But even the shoreline here, notice the difference on the left-hand side between that and what we saw in Manhattan. And this is in terms of kids and families having access to a healthy environment, being able to go on Paseo del Mar, be able to walk along the Esplanade and cool off. Very, very little in the Bronx, especially in the Hunts Point area. And Ed talked yesterday about the floating pool and how that was an idea from the Progressive era. Here in Barretto Point, and I hope we get close to it, we'll be able to see, for the second year in a row, there is no public pool at all for the youngsters at Hunts Point. They have to cross the Bruckner. So the city moored the pool, Olympic-sized swimming pool, in an old barge in Barretto Park. That red steel is the line that goes to New Haven and Boston, the Amtrak line. On the left-hand side, show us Rikers Island. Rikers Island, for those of you who haven't been around it or been there, God forbid, is not one jail, it's about 12 jails in a complex. And many of them are very modern. Well, that'll be coming up on your right, on your starboard side. And in front of us is North Brother Island. And you see the remains of the smallpox hospital and typhus hospital. And this is where the Slocum beached. And the island on the right is South Brother. We'll turn it over to Ed here because this is where our story gets kind of interesting. No one lives there. It's also a rookery for black-crowned night herons, egrets, full of birds. The Audubon Society runs water taxi tours up here just to see the birds, and we may see some nesting in amongst the vines and poison ivy.
All right. So the Slocum, as it made its way through the Hellgate, is pretty well engaged in fire, in flames, and only well into the Hellgate does he receive notification that the boat's on fire, and he steps out of the bridge to go inspect, and he sees this huge ball of flame at the bottom of the stairs, and realizes the ship is gone, or it's full-scale emergency, and he has a decision to make whether to beach the vessel or bring it into a pier way back, further south from where we are. But he's afraid he'll detonate. Look around, see all these oil tanks. He's afraid he's going to set off a much bigger fire. He has a couple, basically worrying, kind of way to, which kind of decision to make. And he decides to actually just to open up the throttle and to roar through where we just went at full speed. Now, when you catch on fire in what do they tell you in third grade? Stop, drop, and roll. Same thing for boats. Don't go forward at full speed, basically. Some boats will even turn around or to try to reduce the fanning of the flames, especially for a boat on fire and it's in the bow. Look out here to the port side, you see North Brother Island. As Phil said, it's in ruins. It's the contagious disease hospitals, as they were collectively called, are peeking out through the trees. The piers are all gone. But this was the destination. The captain was an incredibly experienced captain, 70 years old, had one of the most unblemished records of any captain in the New York area. The year before, he received a gold medal for safety, for his record of safety. He was about to retire, kind of like the captain on the Titanic, extremely experienced, and maybe that was sort of working against him as far as overconfidence goes. Yeah, you get a good view of the hospital here. It was never this overgrown. Big lawns all the way around, so people had a perfect view. And staff members began to see this burning boat coming roaring up the river towards them. And if they looked really closely, they would see scores of people at a time. Remember, there's 1,300 people on the boat pouring over the sides of the ship. You get over 1,000 people die, 900 of them by drowning. Most people in America do not know how to swim, especially city people do not know how to swim in 1904. So you're deciding to die by flame or by water, much like in 9/11, people, eventually jumping from the 100th story of the Twin Towers, knowing it means their death, but being essentially forced to do so by the heat of the flames. So the captain's goal is to get to this island on the other side, and to bring the boat in. He knows there's a beach along the edge of the island, an opening, and he knows there's a hospital there. So he thinks, between the beach, I can get the boat right on the water's edge. People can jump off the boat in shallow water and save themselves. And there's a hospital there with a staff. They can help the people out. Well, the further upriver he goes, the more the flames get pushed back, and about 800 people at the back end of the boat are facing this wall of fire pushing down towards them on a boat completely made out of wood, covered in flammable paint. So it's a remember the story, The Perfect Storm. It's the perfect confluence of factors that making for an inferno.